Alright folks, so you can see we got the cylinder block installed. The first thing you might see is, whoa, that's kind of painted in there. Well, I figured while I had it all apart, I didn't see myself getting down in here and getting this clean, or super clean by any means. Just trying some light on the subject, there we go. So while I had this apart, I went ahead and wire brushed all this out inside here, and I painted the cylinder, the head, and inside these frame rails here. Thinking that, you know, I would at least clean them up, get them down to bare metal, cover it with paint before it got any rust. First I was thinking just using primer, but then I figured, well, you know, you're getting so tight in here, how well can you get paint down in here? I mean, you guys could tell me, I'd love to hear, and you can comment how you guys normally get paint in this general area, because once you get the head on too, that comes in here. You know, I just haven't painted before, so I guess I'll find out later. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of this gets primered over again when I end up painting the whole tractor, but I wanted to get it completely clean and then covered up at least 99%. As you can see, getting it back in here, I scratched some of the block a little bit anyway, and of course you got to touch up your studs or your nuts afterwards. So to get that block in here, it doesn't just squeeze in like you would think. You actually, say you're taking it off, bring it out, then you got to rotate it up on its side, and then you come out here and you bring it up like the studs are coming up and out. It just won't go down in here sideways. So yeah, the manual tells you exactly how to do it. It's nice and helpful. So yeah, moving forward, we'll get the head on here. So one other thing I guess I should mention, so to bolt this on, you have the two nuts up here, and then you have the hole, the cutout in the frame here to get to this one. You got one on the other side, and then up underneath here, let's see if I can show you guys, you got three up there. Sorry, my phone is getting in the way for you to see. I couldn't get a socket on any of these. I had to actually use a wrench. It's a 1 16th inch, so be prepared to have that. Yeah, unfortunately you just gotta go a little bit at a time, especially through these holes, and even down underneath you don't have very much stroke on the wrench, so just takes time and patience. Yep, just wanted to toss that in. Finally got the pistons installed, got new rings on them. One thing I wanted to point out is when you look into the cylinders, you can see the indents on the pistons if you're using the originals. There is I guess an upside to what the manual calls, so I think they go up. I don't know why it would matter, but if one of you guys knows that's listening, go ahead and comment, because I'd be curious to know. So I just wanted to point that out. Put your piston in, of course. You need a ring compressor in order to compress the rings going into the cylinder. So yeah, since I had got the insert connecting rods, these nuts don't have a cotter pin through them. They're just sort of lock nuts. I put Loctite on them. So next is the head. You can see I got the copper coat on, and start getting the head on and all the tappet assembly. Alright, so we got the head on. You can see I went ahead and put the push rods in. They're very long on these tractors. See, they're probably 18 inches long, because they're going from here all the way up to the cam followers up here. That's why they're so long. Yeah, our nuts, I have lead washers underneath them. I gotta tighten these to the spec yet. I believe the spec is like 104 foot-pounds. So we'll get to that and then install the tappet assembly. Talk about that later. I was just going to install that and got looking at that and ran into something funny on it. So luckily I have actually a spare one. I'll show you guys in a few minutes what the story is with that. But for now, I'm probably just gonna work on getting the intake manifold on, and maybe the lower water pipe and some other things that I can get done. Alright, so we got the exhaust manifold on. A couple things you can see. One, I painted it black. This is one of the new aftermarket ones where it comes painted green already. I stripped it down though. I took it through the bead blaster, stripped it down to bare metal, and got high temperature black. If there's one thing I don't like, it's the rusty brown exhaust from the heat. And then, although I don't think it's original to these later style letter series, I got the brass nuts to go on the exhaust manifold. That way they don't seize as bad or potentially as quickly. I read that with the bolts being steel and then the nuts brass, different materials. I used copper coat with the gasket going between that and the head. I think that's really about it. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. One other thing. I did not change these studs. These are studs coming up from the block. I know a lot of people break them off, especially, I was lucky enough to get the nuts off when I took this all apart. I can't remember. I think I actually just split them from the get-go. I didn't even try to take the nuts off because I was afraid it would snap the stud and I'd have to replace them. I think originally I even bought the studs. I was going to replace them, but now that I've got the head on here, I didn't think to do that before. And the fact that this tractor sat outside for how many years, I think the odds of me getting those studs out are pretty slim without heating it, taking a torch around the area and things. So I'm just going to leave it as is. I know a couple of the studs, they go down into the coolant chambers, so you got to make sure that you seal them. But these, they're so rusted in there that I shouldn't have any issues. Alright guys, I apologize. I've gotten a lot done working on my tractor here, and I hadn't put together all the videos and things, and I've gone so many different directions on this tractor that I realized I hadn't taken a video of putting the tappet assembly on like I said I would. So I've gotten pretty far along the way. I got the carburetor on and everything at this point, but I'll eventually get there in the videos. So you can see the tappet assembly goes on these two main studs here. Before you put that on, make sure you get this oil piece on here and this piece that comes up. You can see it comes up the center there, and then it feeds over and provides oil to these outer tappets. So make sure that goes on first because it has to go under these push rods, and you can't do that, and under the arms too, so you can't do that if you put the tappet assembly on first. So again, get that on, then get these on, and in order to adjust the clearance, you want to get your left side #1 cylinder at top dead center. so that both valves are closed. And then I don't think I have it seated like that right now, but you get a 20 thou feeler gauge in here, and that's how much clearance you want between the top of the top of the valve stem and the tappet. And you adjust that by adjusting these screws here. So if you've got too much clearance, let's think about that. You would draw this back and then actually draw that back too with it in order to draw this arm closer. I mentioned I was using a spare, and I was just going to show you guys. I have part of the assembly here of the old one that was on the tractor. Don't ask me how, but at one point someone broke one of these posts. I don't know the actual name for them. And you could see somebody welded that thing together. So rather than taking all this apart and replacing that, I have another one. So that's the one that's on the tractor right now. And I'll keep this for parts because everything else seems to look pretty good. Yeah, just thought I'd show you guys. If you guys got any idea how that might have happened, I'd be curious to know. So again, I apologize for not getting this taped earlier, but that's where we're at now. So if you guys got any questions, let me know.